are on the right path. That's probably one of the hardest parts is you get some data that says, oh, wow, yes, we're on the right path. Well, you don't want to stop. Just like reading a good book. You just want to keep going until you're done.
Welcome to the Happy Engineer podcast, the place where we help engineers like you to build your career, balance your life, and be happy. I'm Zach White, former engineer turned lifestyle engineering coach, and your host for the journey to the career and life that you desire. Hey, I believe that you shouldn't have to sacrifice your life to reach your full potential at work. And what we're going to bring you in these conversations and interviews are the strategies, the tools, and the mindsets that are going to allow you to experience both success at work and success at home. Hey, we do the best we can to keep this free from advertisements. Of course, I can't control what YouTube may throw up, but do us a favor and share this podcast with anybody who you think may like it. And don't forget to click the bell and subscribe and get notifications to our YouTube channel and for upcoming releases of the Happy Engineer podcast. I would love your feedback, and even more than that, love your story. Share with us how these strategies and tools are working for you. Would love to be in touch with you. Connect with us on social media. Find me at Oasis of Courage on Instagram, Facebook, or Zach White on LinkedIn. It's an absolute pleasure to serve you. Now let's do this. Welcome back, happy engineers. You're in for an incredible treat today. I have not only an incredibly successful leader in Ken Whah with us, but a really good friend of mine for years now. Ken and his family are just amazing people through and through. Ken, thank you so much for taking time out of an incredibly busy schedule to be with me and our listeners today.
Absolutely. Glad to be here.
There's 1,000 places we could start because your career journey is loaded with success. But what's unique about you versus a lot of the engineering leaders that I get to talk to is that you've had success across every domain and department of the business. In engineering, you've had success. In sales, you've had success. In product development, you've had success. In marketing, in logistics, and now as a CEO, Ken Whah has touched every function of the business and found success. A lot of engineers either are told that it's really hard to come out of engineering and do other things, or maybe they're told engineering is the perfect foundation. Who knows? What is your actual belief around how the engineering foundation, starting with that skill set and education, has served you across all these different steps of the career ladder and different domains of the business? What's that golden thread that connects your success across all these areas?
Well, we'll come back to the part of this because you're saying that I've had success in all these areas. And first thing I'll tell you, Zach, is a lot of times it didn't feel like success during the moment. And we can come back to that theme. But I will agree with you wholeheartedly that the foundation of my engineering degree has helped me wholeheartedly to the point where I've really told my children as well as other friends' children that if you're looking for a degree, engineering is such a great basis for pretty much anything you want to do in life. And the reason I say that is a couple of reasons. One, the critical thinking aspect of engineering programs that really made you think through answers to problems and solutions to problems. Critically thinking, it's not traditionally out there. You'll meet a lot of people out there that's not their thing. They want to be told what to do, and oh yeah, I see there's a problem, tell me the solution and I'll go fix it, versus I don't know the solution, you're going to have to think through this and figure out what the solution is. That transcends to any function in any business, and that is great. The other piece that I love to show is that we become very fact-based, data-oriented fact-based, which I always say the data will not lie to you. It always is the truth, and it will set you free, right? It'll show you the way, and we have to go after the facts. And you'll learn as well in a lot of different business functions There's a lot of gut feel, which is okay. I mean, an experience you can't deny, but there's always opinions to refute that. And the best way that I've found in every function I've been in is to present data and facts, and then you can't argue those anymore. You move on to the next step, right?
When you bump into one of those gut feel people who just want to go with experience or the intuition, and they kind of refute or don't want to talk about the data, as a data-driven engineering mindset person, how do you handle those type of interactions?
I always realize there's something to learn from somebody like that. In a lot of cases, they're right? They've been there, they've done that, they know what they know, but they haven't themselves found the data to back themselves up. So in a lot of cases, I'll ask a lot of questions because I know I need the data, and maybe they don't need it as much to make the decision, but I'll ask them, hey, I want to prove this to myself. Can I ask more questions, show me what you're talking about so that I can go prove it myself. Don't waste their time. I'm that guy, which, it could be a downfall too, because I don't want to be analysis paralysis, but I have to at least believe in something underlying from a factual basis before I want to move forward, right? So
I really like that
sure.
question. That's kind of a ninja move to say, hey, will you help me prove this to myself? And in a way, you've relieved any sense of combativeness or like triggering defensiveness in them. But at the same time, if you discover something very contrary to their perspective, maybe they'll be more open to it. I like that.
Absolutely. And in most cases, you'll find supporting information for there, and then you can present it back to them and show, hey, I found exactly what you were saying, but I found some really interesting things when I did that. And you can present some of the nuances. Right?
Yeah. So critical thinking, fact-based, data-driven. Is there anything else in that golden through line of an engineering foundation that has served you in your career?
I think everyone who's gone through an engineering degree has known that it takes just hard work sometimes, right? And just fortitude to get through, right? And we know we're experimenters, and how many times does it take to try a new solution before you find the solution? There's a lot of failure in that. And I think that foundation of, you know what, you might not get it right the first time. Let's try something new and try it again and keep trying until you find that solution. I think that, engineering background teaches us that as well.
Yeah, there are many caffeine-fueled late nights at Purdue that can substantiate what you're saying there, which Ken, you also have a degree from Purdue and also Rose-Hulman, is that right?
That's correct. Yeah.
The boiler up. That's fantastic. What about the other side then, Ken? Being an engineer, it trains us to think a certain way. We might stereotypically have some patterns of behavior or attitudes that some people say are not going to serve you. I'm curious for your perspective. Are there things you've had to overcome or complement in your personal growth to be able to be successful in these other functions of the business?
I'd say two. First one that is probably the hardest one, but you just mentioned it, these late nights that you can't do it forever. Is there a season if you'll plan for it and you allow for, okay, I know this week's going to be crazy, but then I have some reflection and downtime built in. You have to keep a healthy, rounded person in order to be successful. And, it can't just be work. There has to be personal, your family, your friends, your spouse, or your significant other. If you're into your faith, there has to be some balance with your faith. There has to be balance on your personal health and being able to exercise and eat well and things like that. And just retreat and recreation too, right? You have to build that in. If you're not balanced, it will take a toll on you, your family, you as an individual, right? And your opportunity for success. It shows back up in your inability to be creative and your inability to find solutions as well. So as hard as that is for all of us engineers who want to just pound it out and work the 100 hours to get it done, it does not produce the solution. We always say work smarter, not harder. Well, the work smart here is that balance. That balance wheel will get you to solutions faster than this working hard.
100% agree. This is really, really common. And we see with our clients who we serve at OACO who come in with, there's only one speed, it's full speed and it's all work. But I'm curious, Ken, Do you have any belief or understanding on why are engineers so drawn into that trap of being very one-dimensional in their life and that tendency to overwork and put in those hours and think that working harder and longer is always the solution?
I can speak from personal experience, and I think we are so drawn to solving the problem that we put it on ourselves. We take accountability for solving the problem, and we know that it's going to take a lot of hours to solve this problem. And so we'd rather knock it out, get it done. And when you are on the right path, that's probably one of the hardest parts is you get some data that says, oh, wow, yes, we're on the right path. Well, you don't want to stop, just like reading a good book. You just want to keep going until you're done, right? And so you end up, because we've all felt that too, is where you take a break and then mentally you come back and it takes you a little while to get back into the groove. And so we tend to I tend to think breaks sometimes slow us down. That's just my insight on why I think we all, these engineering background, we want to just get it done and move through, and the commitment that we made, we want to follow it through.
So that's number one. You mentioned earlier there were two. Maybe I distracted you. Do you remember the other?
I do. So the other big one, this one is what took me into all these other areas of my career. I am really curious on why. And early on in my career, it didn't really matter. And, in fact, the earlier in your career as an engineer, you don't really need to know why. Why am I doing this? You got to get this done. I was in a, test engineer. Well, we got to test this product. That's why. But, I just I just wanted to know, why are we even developing this feature? Why are we testing it this way? And I just got so curious on why. I believe that helped me, because it became much more than just the solution anymore. But why does the problem even exist? And so I moved from engineering into product development and really started going to customer research and listening to the customers and getting really enamored with trying to understand, why are we even doing this? And now I know I can use data and critical thinking to solve problems, but now you know why, and you could then be more creative on all the solutions, because sometimes you're taking somebody else's opinion on what the problem is before going to the end consumer, truly understanding what they're thinking, to then come up with a broader set of possible solutions to what's going on. And when I started doing that is when I started overachieving, because I was seeing beyond the current, and I could have a bigger vision, a broader vision for what really needed to be done. Not just the current project, but you could start thinking about what's the next project, what's the next thing we could go do, right?
I see this too. Engineers are how people, and we get trained this way all through school. The problem is just handed to you, and you go about solving it, figure out the answer, and it's all about how to get to that finish line, which we love it when we can see all the way to the finish line from the very beginning, right? Engineers, when you can't see how the dots connect, that creates a lot of fear and uncertainty in our lives. But what I hear you saying is, if you want to really be successful outside of engineering and even build your engineering career to high levels, if you want to be a director, a VP, CTO, it's not enough to be a how person. You also need to be a what and why person to get there. And I 100% agree with that. That's really good. So it's one thing to be really great at solving problems, but it's even greater to know why you're solving it in the first place. So take that to heart. You said something really interesting earlier, Ken, and I do want to come back to it, that maybe my comments about your incredible success in all these roles is an outsider's perspective, but from the inside, it didn't always look or feel that way to you. Tell us what you meant by that.
So I'll give you a couple of things. One, within each role, I always felt like I wasn't doing enough, right? In that it wasn't going exactly how I thought it should. I had a vision, I had a goal, but rallying everybody around that same goal is always a struggle. And no matter what role I've been in, you'll never get perfect alignment around things. Plus, with the corporate world and change, just when you got 3/4 of the people aligned to something, 3 people change roles, and now you got to redo it again. And there was always a level of frustration of, I'm not doing enough fast enough. But what I've learned through all of those is you learn to measure less often. Do more toward a vision, but measure yourself less often. If you're measuring yourself weekly or even monthly on the final result, you're going to drive yourself crazy. But if you measure the final result in years or even 5-year increments, you're going to look back at it and be much more happy with what you've accomplished. What I do measure is my behaviors and my routine. Am I doing what I said I'm going to do? Am I behaving the way I said I'm going to behave? Those things is what you focus on in the short term. The results will follow. The other thing I will tell you is that you mentioned, man, I had this path and I went through all these different roles. I had no idea that was the path. I had my own path, but that wasn't the path that God had planned for me. And every single time I had it wrong, right? Every time I thought my next path and my next role is what I thought was going to happen, that's not what happened. It was a whole different role and a whole new door that opened up, and it's always landed in a great place. And many times I didn't know, is this where I'm supposed to go next? But because like you said before, that background of, hey, this is just a new problem. And it's a different way to think about this problem. They're bringing me in as a new perspective to solve this problem. And I've been pretty successful at that, looking back at it. Like I said, when you're in the moment, you might not even think you were that successful. But when you look back at it, you kind of go, wow, we actually did accomplish a lot.
This is a really cool discussion that I know engineers face a lot. Maybe I'll paint it as a continuum where on one side is this belief system that I need to have a crystal clear plan around everything that I'm going to do next, go share that with my leadership and settle for nothing less than my plan. And on the other side might be the totally random. I had no idea this was going to happen. Results just fell into my lap and here I am. I planned nothing. I don't think anybody lives on the full end of the extremes, but we certainly come in with maybe a bias toward one or the other. And can you then describe, Ken, for what you've learned in going through this? You had a plan, but it often went another way. So if I'm an engineer, maybe I'm a manager, I'm a senior manager, and I really want to be a director of engineering. And that's my goal, that's my thing. And I'm laser focused on this one plan. How do you go hard towards your goal and plan, but still have this openness to see the open door that might be right there next to you that you never thought would come, but it's actually an awesome opportunity? Like, how do you do that?
Well, I'll tell you, you make me laugh because most every single time one of those opportunities presented itself, I told them instantly, no, thank you. Right. and then I had to go think about it. Everyone was like, hey, we want you to be an innovation consultant. No, thank you. That doesn't sound fun. That's not me. Or, hey, we want you to move into sales. Yeah, no, that's okay. No, we want you to move into logistics. Yeah, no, that's not me. And then I thought about it. It was gnawing at me a little. And what I did is I turned to people I trust. You have to have a group of people you trust that you can talk to. If you have a coach, a life coach, or if you have your wife or a business partner or somebody that you just knows you better than you sometimes. In a lot of cases, I had a mentor at the job that was much more senior, in position than I was, but he had put his arm around me throughout my career, and I would go to that person and just ask, hey, what do you think about this? And they would bounce right back. Hey, didn't you say you wanted to leverage this skill and this talent next? Well, I know you had this idea over here, but this sounds like the same thing, just presented in a different form. And that
Wow.
I needed a different perspective to see that. I don't think I would have saw it without help of my wife, my mentor, a peer who would help me see something a little different way. I'm a big believer in other perspectives, and that's another tenet that I've put into place as I've grown as a leader is seek others' perspectives. I stopped calling them opinions because, yeah, I get it, but it's not really about fighting opinions. It's about different perspectives, and every person has a different perspective, and their perspective is always right. You can't refute their perspective. It's their perspective, right? So
That's a great reminder. It's not about seeking the right answer from other people. It's just about building your set of perspectives, some information
Exactly.
to pull from. I love that.
You can't have a vision without lots of perspectives, right?
Yeah, totally. Oh, I love that. Vision implies broad perspective. That's great. And in the presence of many counselors, there's safety, Proverbs says. And
Yeah.
so that's really
Yes.
good. So through that journey, then, Ken, is there any moment in particular that stands out to you as a really defining moment in your career path and life that you look back to and say, this was one of those moments where things really shifted or the trajectory changed for me?
Unfortunately, it was really a bad time in my life when I was focusing too much on work, and I've learned the hard way, unfortunately. Ambition was my number one goal, and which is even weird. I don't even know how ambition can be a goal. It's like it's more of a verb than a goal, right? But I use that reflection to say I do believe that not having my balance in check really destroyed my first marriage and took me down a path that I hit a bottom. And I realized that, wow, I'm going to have to do something different. And I sought the Lord, and I really gave it to Him for maybe the first time ever, and came out with a new perspective that I have talents, I'm worthwhile, I'm valuable, and I need to keep things in balance though. But it's not just about work, it's about my whole life. And I want to be successful in all of them. And I used to feel like I lived in two worlds. I lived in my business world, and I lived in the other part of my life. And that moment, my worlds merged. And I felt like, okay, I'm just me. I've been given God-given talents, and I need to put them to use in all facets of my life, all facets, not just work.
This is striking a deep chord of resonance with me. For everybody who knows my story, I also experienced the pursuit of ambition leaving me in a moment where divorce was happening and rock bottom. So Ken, if somebody's hearing this, maybe it's not divorce, but there's something going on that feels like that rock bottom moment, or you feel like you're headed in a downward trajectory in your career and life, what would you say to someone if this was a mentee or somebody's just like, oh, I feel connected to that energy? Like, what does it take for somebody to make the shift, to bounce back and actually start moving in an upward trajectory again?
For me, it was my faith. It was the only way. I was still holding on to it so tight, on a dream, and I had to let it go. And once I let it go, then I could take a breath and, okay, now the whole world opened up because there's lots of more options now. What options do I have? Think about your talents and your gifts versus this path that I chose, that I put on my back, that I'm not being successful at. You let it go and say more, okay, take a step back. What am I good at? What talents do I have? And how do I put some of those in action in all parts of my life? How do I become, with my talents, be a better friend? How do I be a better spouse? How do I be a better father? How do I use these in my church? And, I can use these at work too.
Yeah.
And then you tend to find not only a combination of your talents, but you find some passion around it too. You end up finding a new passion, and you combine passion and talent. Watch out. People go on fire then. It's nonstop from there.
Yes. Combine passion and talent. So if we take that, let's shift to the person who is on the upward side. They've got the passion and the talent. They're Ken after that rock bottom moment, and you're taking off. What have you found in terms of career growth are the points where the biggest changes in your mindset and leadership were required? So, you're a CEO now. You've literally held almost every position you can hold in some capacity. I'm sure there's exceptions, but like, you've done all these things. At what points in the journey did you experience the biggest stretching and growth required to keep moving up? And specifically, maybe the vertical side of the conversation, more so than functionally in terms of breadth. What do you think those points were that really demanded you to totally shift and grow in a big way?
I think the way I approached different roles, in a lot of cases, I was moving into a function in a more senior level at the same time. When I moved into sales, I was moving into a sales leadership role. And then when I moved into logistics, I moved into a more senior logistics role. And when I moved to Hanson, I moved into a CEO role in a completely different capacity. So it's hard to disconnect those two for me.
Fair.
But what I will tell you is the approach was, I knew there was going to be somebody that says, you don't know anything about this. How in the heck did you get selected for this? And so I was always ready for that answer, is like, I got selected because I'm not experienced in this area. I'm bringing a new perspective. I'm here to be a leader, not a functional expert. And functional experts are who I need to hire to do specific jobs appropriately. But when you're talking about leading an organization, what I've noticed is, have you ever had a boss that's a functional expert that got promoted into a leadership position? Guess what they want to do? They want to do your job all the time, right? It's tough. When I'm in another function, when I jumped into sales, I knew nothing about sales. When I jumped into logistics, I knew nothing about logistics, and it freed me. It allowed me to be humble. It allowed me to learn from everyone, and I'm not confrontational. It was more, hey, I know you're the expert. Teach me what it is. Teach me about this area, and tell me how I can be a better leader for you in this area. I never wanted to go do any of their jobs because they didn't have time to learn their jobs to begin with. So I became a good person at understanding the strategy, understanding the structure, understanding talent, and who was good at what they did, and making sure we filled holes, moved people to other roles, and got people promoted when they had great opportunities. But that's what I'd tell you, is making me realize that I can be an expert in an area that I haven't been in, because I bring a different perspective to that area as a leader, not necessarily as an individual contributor.
This is brilliant. And I want to replay it because I hear all the time people who are afraid. We might use the imposter syndrome phrase that comes up a lot around this when it comes to promotion or reaching that next level. Am I good enough? Am I smart enough? Am I talented enough to lead these people? And they want to be that functional expert and the leader. And not to say like Ken had it easy by switching functions at the same time, but it forced your hand that you actually were not the expert and to show up that way. But engineers, whether you're switching departments, you're doing sales, or you're within engineering, the attitude that Ken just described is extremely powerful, to say, I don't have to be smarter than every person on my team. In fact, it's best for me to be the leader and not the functional expert as I step into those roles. And how can you right now, engineer, shift that mindset in yourself? That's super powerful. And I think sometimes we don't realize how much we're wired to be the functional expert in everything as we move up within engineering, because we do have an expertise to pull from. And that's what got us to that point, was being really smart. And now it's time to stop being so smart and start simply leading. So that's awesome. Ken, what about at the C level? Just one more quick curiosity for people who have the aspiration to maybe be a CTO or CEO one day. Is there anything that is unique about success where you're at today versus director or engineering manager type of roles?
Absolutely. I mean, you're so far removed from the day-to-day that you're talking much, much larger. What is your mission? What is your vision? What is the culture that will help you get there? How do you embed the culture? How do you deploy the strategy? How do you have a management system for your whole company to make sure that the strategy is what is getting worked on and that other things are not getting worked on, that people are being held accountable and given the responsibility to make decisions at the right levels in the organization, that the right talent, they're in the right seats, that you have a talent development program for every single person, not just the ultra elite, but every person has an opportunity to add value every day, and that they have the opportunity to grow their career where they want to. Putting those systems in place at a much, much higher level are critically important to making sure that the company will thrive and survive.
I'm curious if you would agree with this statement, Ken. One of the things that I've seen is when a leader individually, an engineer that we're partnered with at Owaco for coaching, for example, when they start to ask those kinds of questions about their own life, what is my vision and mission in life? What's the DNA or the values and the culture that's important to me that I want to show up and live out every day for myself, and having integrity to that, and starting to experience life on those terms that matter most to me, and balance the way et cetera, et cetera. When you start to do it for yourself, then having those conversations within the organization, it starts to make more sense. It starts to connect, and it helps you to prepare for those higher level leadership roles. When a lot of people, especially I see like first director role, and they start asking new questions about culture and vision, maybe for the first time, but they've really never sat with those ideas before. And now they're trying to solve the problem for the company, but they've never actually even thought about that for themselves. Do you agree? Like that's a good place to begin if you're an engineering manager, you're at a lower level today, to start learning about these principles, like be the CEO of your own life if you ever want to be CEO of the company. Does that align with you, or would you frame it differently?
I like what you're saying, because you are in control of your own behaviors. You are in control of how you react to things. Those things are foundational to who you are as a person and how you are viewed as a person. So yes, I mean, you're not going to get it perfect every day by any means,
Yeah.
but also that's a behavior that you want to show, is that humility of, hey, in front of everybody, I messed up and I don't always get it right, and I'm sorry. That's a great behavior to have in this world, right?
That's a tough one, saying
It
I'm
is.
sorry.
But I'd also say what I've noticed is that those who are focused on themselves going into one-on-one meetings, it's good. It's good. I mean, it's nice to know that they are passionate, but when you see somebody passionate about either a customer benefit, or even a behavior that they want to see changed at the company, or a community impact that we want to have as a company, that passion around that is so contagious that it goes way beyond the I. It now is no longer about the I. It's about, we must do this as an organization, and you see that passion. So I would try to find what you're passionate about, right? If you haven't figured that out yet, and then that's a bit of self-exploration too, but what breaks your heart? What ticks you off? You're linked to some of your passion there on what you want to see different for this company and for its success. I'd say 99% of the people I meet, they want their company to be successful, and they want to have a great product out there that they can tie their name to, right? Find your passion around that. It'll take you a lot further than you going to say, I want to be VP one day. I want to be CEO one day.
There's a phrase inside the OACO company mission and vision statement. I won't go into all the detail, but there's a statement that's really important to me. It says, it's not about us. It never was about me, and it never will be about me. That's really a good reminder to make sure that we're not just all about us in our career building and life. Ken, there's so much I'd love to dig into, but I want to respect your time and get you out of here as promised. And I'm sure the engineer listening has a career to get to and keep building. So let's wrap up. And I always ask this same question at the end, and I'm excited to hear your perspective. I believe great engineering, it's got in common with great coaching that the questions lead and answers follow. So let's ask great questions if we want to get great answers. So if the engineer listening to this, as a leader, they want to be successful and happy, what would be a question that you would lead them with today?
I think the theme of what we've talked about here is, what is your why? I think whether it's your personal why on what your talents and why you're here, what talents are you supposed to be leaving behind and giving and serving with, but also why at your company are you linked to? Why does your company exist? And where can you add value and connect those dots? Where the company's why and your why intercede, you're going to find success. So my question to you is, do you know your why?
Do you know your why? Within your life, within your work, within your family, within your faith, do you know your why? Engineers, you've got some work to go do. If you don't know those answers, dig in, get help, talk to those trusted friends, coaches, mentors, advisors, and take action. Ken, if somebody would love to just learn more about you, your company, the things that you're up to in the world, and they wanted to reach out, is there any best place that somebody, could do that or stay connected to you and your work?
LinkedIn. If you just do a LinkedIn message to me, you can find me at Ken Whah or under Hanson Logistics, and just send me a message and mention this podcast, and I will definitely reach back out to you.
I'll put links to that in the show notes on oasisofcourage.com for everybody who wants to find Ken. I don't know that there's thousands of Ken Whahs in the world, but if there are, I'll make sure you land on the right one. And Ken, I can't thank you enough again for your time today. This has been awesome.
Awesome. Thank you, Zach. I appreciate the opportunity.
Hello, my friend. Zach White here again, and I wanted to let you know that's all we've got for this episode of the Happy Engineer podcast. Thank you so much for investing your time with me today. It is an absolute pleasure to be able to bring you this content. Just as a reminder, it would be amazing if you would subscribe and share this episode with any other engineers you know who may benefit from this. And if you're like me, I hope that you'll take some notes and, more importantly, take action. In our audio version of the podcast on Apple Podcasts and any place that you go to find podcasts, there's a little more content from me about this episode in the debrief. If you really want to hear about how to put this into action, I'd encourage you to go grab that. But thank you for joining us for the video version of our interview today. And again, can't thank you enough for helping us to get the word out about the Happy Engineer podcast and what we're doing. If there's any way we can serve you, would love to do that. Go find us at oasisofcourage.com or reach out to me on social media at Oasis of Courage. And don't forget again to subscribe and click the bell to have notifications of upcoming releases of new episodes of the podcast. As always, I want to leave you with this. If you stay in your comfort zone, you're not going to grow. So let's crush comfort, create courage, and let's do this.